Wow, that's a lot of people. That's a new record. We set a record every time. Well, thank you very much for being here. The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country. I'd like to thank and congratulate Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh for their strength and wisdom and love of our country, which is right now very proud of those justices. When you read the dissenting opinions, there's no way that anyone can argue against them. There's no way. Foreign countries that have been ripping us off for years are ecstatic. They're so happy. And they're dancing in the streets, but they won't be dancing for long, that I can assure you. The Democrats on the court are thrilled, but they will automatically vote no. They're an automatic no, just like in Congress. They're an automatic no. They're against anything that makes America strong, healthy, and great again. They also are a, frankly, disgrace to our nation, those justices. They're an automatic no, no matter how good a case you have. It's a no. But you can't knock their loyalty. It's one thing you can do with some of our people. Others think they're being politically correct, which has happened before far too often with certain members of this court, and it's happened so often with this court. What a shame. Having to do with voting in particular, when in fact they're just being fools and lapdogs for the rhinos and the radical left Democrats, and not that this should have anything at all to do with it. They're very unpatriotic and disloyal to our Constitution. It's my opinion that the court has been swayed by foreign interests and a political movement that is far smaller than people would ever think. It's a small movement. I won by millions of votes. We won in a landslide. With all the cheating that went on, there was a lot of it, but we still won in a landslide. Too big to rig. But these people are obnoxious, ignorant, and loud. They're very loud, and I think certain justices are afraid of that. They don't want to do the right thing. They're afraid of it. This was an important case to me, more as a symbol of economic national security, and also, I would say, just for our country itself, so important, because we're doing so well as a country. We've never done so well. The good news is that there are methods, practices, statutes, and authorities, as recognized by the entire court in this terrible decision, and also as recognized by Congress, which they refer to, that are even stronger than the IEEPA tariffs available to me as President of the United States. And in actuality, I was very modest in my ask of other countries and businesses because I wanted to do, and it's very important, I wanted to be very well behaved because I wanted to do anything, I didn't want to do anything that would affect the decision of the court, because I understand the court. I understand how they are very easily swayed. I want to be a good boy. I have very effectively utilized tariffs over the past year to make America great again. Our stock market has just recently broken 50,000 on the Dow, and simultaneously, and even more amazingly, broken 7,000 on the S&P, two numbers that everybody thought upon our landslide election victory could not be attained. Think of that. Nobody thought it was possible to do it within 4 years, and we did it in 1 year. They said, you'll never be able, you'll go back and you read the geniuses, read their statements, all of the Nobel Prize winners in economics. They said, no, you couldn't do it in 4 years. Well, we didn't do it in 4 years. We did it in 1 year. We broke every record in the book, and we're continuing to do so. Tariffs have likewise been used to end 5 of the 8 wars that I settled. I settled 8 wars, whether you like it or not, including India, Pakistan, big ones, nuclear, could have been nuclear. Prime Minister of Pakistan said yesterday at the great meeting that we had, the Peace Board, he said yesterday that President Trump could have saved 35 million lives by getting us to stop fighting. They were getting ready to do some bad things. But they've given us great national security, these tariffs have. And together with our strong borders, reduced fentanyl coming into our country by 30%. When I use them as a penalty against countries illegally sending this poison into our country to poison our youth. All of those tariffs remain. They all remain. I don't know if you know that or not. They all remain. We're still getting them, and we will after the decision. I guess there's nobody left to appeal to. But again, those 3 people, such respect. I've had a lot of respect for them anyway, but such great respect. But other alternatives will now be used to replace the ones that the court incorrectly rejected. We have alternatives, great alternatives. Could be more money. We'll take in more money, and we'll be a lot stronger for it. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. We'll continue to do so. To show you how ridiculous the opinion is, however, the court said that I'm not allowed to charge even $1. I can't charge $1. Can't charge $1. I would have used 1 penny, but we don't make the pennies anymore. We save money. Can't charge $1 to any country under IEPA. Not $1. I assume to protect other countries. This must have been done to protect those other countries, certainly not the United States of America, which they should be interested in protecting. That's what they're supposed to be protecting. But I am allowed to cut off any and all trade or business with that same country. In other words, I can destroy the trade. I can destroy the country. I'm even allowed to impose a foreign country destroying embargo. I can embargo. I can do anything I want, but I can't charge $1. Because that's not what it says. And that's not the way it even reads. I can do anything I want to do to them, but I can't charge any money. So I'm allowed to destroy the country, but I can't charge them a little fee. I could give them a little 2-cent fee, but I cannot charge under any circumstances. I cannot charge them anything. Think of that. How ridiculous is that? I'm allowed to embargo them. I'm allowed to tell them you can't do business in the United States anymore. We want you out of here. But if I want to charge them $10, I can't do that. It's incorrect. Their decision's incorrect. But it doesn't matter because we have very powerful alternatives that have been approved by this decision. You know, they've been approved by the decision for those that thought they had us. And they're saying that I have the absolute right to license, but not the right to charge a license fee. So think of that. I have the right to license, which is a very powerful word. In many ways, license is more powerful than tariffs. In fact, I was thinking about using it. But they came up with the idea that I can license, just like the people that were opposing me told them to do, but not the right to charge a license fee. Think of that. Who ever heard of such a thing? What license has ever been issued without the right to charge a fee? You get a license, you charge a fee. It's automatic, but not with this court. But now the court has given me the unquestioned right to ban all sorts of things from coming into our country, to destroy foreign countries, but a much more powerful right than many people ever thought we even had, but not the right to charge a fee. How crazy is that? Our country is the hottest country anywhere in the world right now. And it was a dead country 1.5 years ago under an incompetent president. But now I'm going to go in a different direction, probably the direction that I should have gone the first time, but I read the language. I'm very good at reading language, and it read our way 100%, but now I'll go the way I could have gone originally, which is even stronger than our original choice. As Justice Kavanaugh, whose stock has gone so up, you have to see, I'm so proud of him, wrote in his dissent, although I firmly disagree with the court's holding today, the decision might not substantially constrain a president's ability to order tariffs going forward. So think of that. The decision might not substantially constrain. And it doesn't. He's right. In fact, I can charge much more than I was charging. So I'm going to just start. Although I firmly disagree with the court's holding today, the decision might not substantially constrain a president's ability to order tariffs going forward. That's because numerous other federal statutes, which is so true, authorize the president to impose tariffs and might justify most, if not all, of the tariffs issued in this case. Even more tariffs, actually. Those statutes include, think of that, those statutes include, for example, the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, Section 232. All of these things I know so well. The Trade Act of 1974, Sections 122, 201, 301. And the Tariff Act of 1930, Section 338, all clear. But it's a little bit longer process. I thought I'd make things simple, but they didn't let us do that. I would like to thank Justice Kavanaugh for frankly, his genius and his great ability. Very proud of that appointment. In actuality, while I am sure that they did not mean to do so, the Supreme Court's decision today made a president's ability to both regulate trade and impose tariffs more powerful and more crystal clear rather than less. I don't think they meant that. I'm sure they didn't. It's terrible. And to think that the Democrats who oppose this only because they want to go the opposite way, they'd like to pack the court. They want to put on 21 people. They want to pack the court, pack the Supreme Court. Maybe they should do it. Maybe they would be better off if they did it. They want to pack the court. They want to do anything to hurt our country. There will no longer be any doubt, and the income coming in and the protection of our companies and country will actually increase because of this decision. I don't think the court meant that, but it's the way it is. Based on long-standing law and hundreds of victories, and even, as I was pointed out before, even thousands of victories over the years, to the contrary, the Supreme Court did not overrule tariffs. They merely overruled a particular use of IEEPA tariffs. And essentially, it's used to get a fee. I can do anything I want with IEEPA, anything. I just can't charge anybody for it. I can license, I just can't charge them. It's ridiculous, but it's okay because we have other ways, numerous other ways. The ability to block, embargo, restrict, license, or impose any other condition on a foreign country's ability to conduct trade with the United States under IEEPA has been fully confirmed by this decision. So now there's no doubt, because, there were a lot of questions about tariffs because no president was smart enough to use them to protect our country from those countries and businesses that were ripping us off. You took a look at the deficits that we had with some of these countries. It was disgraceful what they got away with for many, many decades. But now we know, because this decision affirms all those things that some people weren't sure about. In order to protect, and it says so, in order to protect our country, a president can actually charge more tariffs than I was charging in the past period of a year under the various tariff authorities. So we can use other of the statutes, other of the tariff authorities, which have also been confirmed and are fully allowed. Therefore, effective immediately, all national security tariffs under Section 232 and existing Section 301 tariffs, they're existing, they're there, remain in place, fully in place, and in full force and effect. Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. And we're also initiating several Section 301 and other investigations to protect our country from unfair trading practices of other countries and companies. thank you for your attention to this matter. And I say quite simply, which I've said for a long time, make America great again. And interestingly, we've already made it great, so I don't have to use that, but I don't think we'll ever give up on MAGA. MAGA is always going to be with us. If you have a few questions, you can let us know. But just to end, so we're going forward, we will be able to take in more money, and there'll no longer be doubt, because there was always doubt. I know the people that brought the lawsuit, and they're sleazebags, major sleazebags, but I know them, and they're foreign country centric. They were sending things into our country, and the people representing them knew full well, but they were sending things into our country, and they were beneficial to other countries, but very, very bad for us. And I stopped it, and we'll just keep it going. So we have we have a totally firm decision now, and I don't think the court meant it, because the court doesn't show great spirit toward our country, in my opinion. A lot of bad decisions, but there are usually ways around it. This is something we could have done, as Justice Kavanaugh said, we could have done this originally, but we're doing it now, and the numbers could be far greater than the hundreds of billions we've already taken in. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'm very curious. You've spoken about
in the red.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Justice Thomas and Alito, as you know, are the most conservative constitutional justices. Do you think that you'll get to appoint 2 more justices later this term with similar ideologies? And what type of vetting process will they go through to ensure they uphold
I don't know, but they're great
Constitution?
justices. That's all I can say. And I hope they're going to be around a long time. I hope they're going to stay healthy. They're great people. They're great. And Justice Alito, too, to add to the group. These are great men.
Right.
With a great love of our country and a great understanding of the law.
Mr. President, are you going to ask Congress to take additional action on tariffs now?
No, I don't need to. It's already been approved. I mean, I would ask Congress and probably get it. When people look at the real numbers, and you look at hundreds of billions of dollars that have come into our country. Yesterday, I was at a steel plant, as you know, and I went to great place, great plant, great, wonderful people. And they were telling me, I said to them, you were there, a lot of the press in this room. Of course, I don't think this plane's big enough to take the press in this room, but a lot of the press right here. We were in Georgia. And I said to the owner, I made a speech at a factory. They make steel products. And I said, how are you? Nice to meet you. How's business? President, I'd love to kiss you. This is a very powerful man. I don't want to be kissed by that man, but a very powerful, strong man. He's been in the steel business for many years. His father started it. And he said, sir, I want to kiss you. I said, why? He said, because we were down to working 1 hour a week, and then you came in and imposed tariffs, and all of that foreign junk that they were dropping into our country stopped. And we're now going to double shifts, 7 days a week, and we may be very soon going to 24 hours around the clock, almost 7 days a week. He said, sir, I want to kiss you so badly. And I said, no, thank you. But you know what? He just to finalize it, he said, oh, this is a great place in Georgia. He said, all up and down the highway, same exact answer, sir. We're all going out of business. We're going to go bankrupt. We're all going out of business. And now every one of us are thriving, and we're hiring people like we haven't. He said, like I've never, and he's been in business for, I think, 45 years, like we've never hired before. That's because of tariffs. And we're going to keep it going the same way. And you're going to start to see the results in a year from now when all those factories start that are under construction right now. You see all the construction numbers are so good. Those construction workers are building factories that are going to be open, including not only AI, which is big, but car plants coming in from Canada, who ripped us off for 30% of our market. Mexico ripped us off for a big portion. Over the years, they've taken our market. They've taken our cars. They manufacture them in Japan, Germany, and all over the place because nobody's standing in this position. The position I have as President of the United States had the insight, the courage, well, I don't know what it is, to charge tariffs. You can make your product outside. You can put our people out of business. You can put everybody on the unemployment rolls. but if you're going to make a car in some other country, you're going to pay a 15, 20, 30% tariff. And those things would have never happened. We wouldn't have lost our business. Same thing with, as an example, Taiwan. Taiwan came in, they stole our chip business. They make chips. For 30 years longer, they made chip, and they put our companies. Intel would be now the largest company. I saved Intel. I literally saved it at the beginning of this administration. And now all those companies in Taiwan are building factories in Arizona, Texas, and various other places because they don't want to pay tariffs. They're all pouring into the United States. But just like that great patriot said yesterday, sir, what you've done, nobody thought was possible. And Steve Moore, a highly respected economist, came into my office yesterday. He said, you've done something nobody's ever done. 22 Nobel Prize winners in economics said we would right now be in a recession. And you said, no, we're going to have a booming country. We're going to have a booming country. You were right. All 22 were wrong, and you were right. This country is booming, and it's booming because of the election on November 5th. And it's booming for another reason. It's booming because of tariffs. Yeah, please, go ahead.
What will you say ahead of this decision that if the Supreme Court
please,
ruled...
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. What will you say to foreign nations who seek to renegotiate their deals? And what did you mean a moment ago when you said that the Supreme Court has been swayed by foreign interests?
Well, I think that foreign interests are represented by people that I believe have undue influence. They have a lot of influence over the Supreme Court, whether it's through fear or respect or friendships, I don't know. But I know some of the people that were involved on the other side, and I don't like them. I think they're real slime balls. And got to do what's right for the country. You got to do what's right for the Constitution. That's why I respect so much Justice Thomas and Alito, Kavanaugh, because they not only dissented, their dissent is so strong. When you read their dissent, you know, a lot of times you'll read a dissent and it's like, well, you don't know, it could go either way. There's no other way. The good news is, it's like Justice Kavanaugh said, very strongly said, you have other ways you can go. You don't have to go that way. You can go other way. There are numerous other ways you can go. And frankly, this should have been done by presidents many years ago. They allowed our country to be eaten alive. We lost 50% of our car business. We used to make cars. We made all the cars. And then Mexico came, Canada came, and Japan and Germany. But they're all coming back now. They're all coming back at record levels. No, you please. I'm not talking to you. I don't talk to CNN. It's fake news. Go ahead.
Mr. President, yesterday you made the case that the economy is the hottest it's been in a long time.
Right.
January jobs report beat expectations, CPI report beat expectation, real wages are up. What would you tell Americans who are worried that this decision will kind of throw the economy that you have projected going in the right direction at a very rapid pace off track?
Well, thank you for the question. And I will say this, we really are at a very important point. I've been waiting for this decision so long. They could have made this decision a long time ago. Not complex. They're wrong on it. It's a ridiculous decision. But they should have released this a long time ago. We waited months. And that gave uncertainty. Now we have certainty. And I think you're going to see the country get much stronger because of it. Look, we were ripped off by almost every country in the world. If you look at the surpluses, almost every country in the world that did business with us, our people were stupid. And I blame presidents for it because they're ultimately the leader. We were being ripped off by almost every single country in the world, had some massive surpluses. China had hundreds of billions of dollars in surpluses with the United States. They rebuilt China. They rebuilt the army. We built China's army by allowing that to happen. I have a great relationship with President Xi, but he respects our country now. Now, what we've done, I charged China a 20% tariff as a penalty for sending fentanyl in. And that was 20 times more than they could make by selling fentanyl. And I said, you know, at some point you're going to say, like, and they have reduced it. You know, fentanyl is down by more than 30% coming into our country. Part of that is a strong border. We have a strong border now. But thank you. Thank you for your question.
Mr. President, sir, you warned once in a social media post that if the Supreme Court did this, shot down your tariffs, the U.S. would be, quote, financially defenseless. Are we financially defenseless right now?
No, because we're doing something in a different way. We're doing something in a very powerful way, and we're using things that some people thought we should have used in the first place. But it's more complicated. It's a little more complicated. The process takes a little more time, but the end result is going to get us more money, and I think it's going to be great. Yeah, please. Peter, go ahead.
Thank you, President Trump. So, since Liberation Day, there's about $175 billion in tariff revenue that is now in limbo. Do you have to refund $175 billion?
Think of it, Peter. Very fair question. They take months and months to write an opinion, and they don't even discuss that point. We've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars, not millions, hundreds of billions of dollars. And so I said, well, what happens to all the money that we took in? It wasn't discussed. Wouldn't you think they would have put one sentence in there saying that keep the money or don't keep the money, right? I guess it has to get litigated for the next 2 years. So they write this terrible, defective decision, totally defective. It's almost like not written by smart people. And what they do, they don't even talk about that. Your question is very basic. That was the first question I asked also to make you feel good. I said, what about all the money that we've taken in? Sir, they don't discuss that. How crazy is that?
What you're saying is, are you saying that you don't plan to honor refunds for companies that file for them?
I just told you the answer, right? I told you the answer. It's not discussed. We'll end up being in court for the next 5 years. Go ahead, Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. When you are talking about the relationship with countries that you have sought trade deals with, do you anticipate that they will seek to renegotiate those? What do you say to them? And do you view this as a potential undermining power for your
we're
negotiations?
going straight ahead with 10% straight across the board, which was the absolute right to do. And that's taking place. That's a lot of money coming into our country. And then during that period of about 5 months, we are doing the various investigations necessary to put fair tariffs or tariffs, period, on other countries. So we're doing that period, but we're immediately instituting the 10% provision, which we're allowed to do. And in the end, I think we'll take in more money than we've taken in before.
Mr. President, you've used the tariff revenue to pay for a host of federal policies. You claim that they will pay for them. What happens to
Well, like
those
the
things?
farmers. We took care of farmers. You know, the farmers were mistreated by foreign countries very badly, very, very badly. And last week I gave them $12 billion out of tariff money. We intend to, out of tariff money, because just so you understand, we have tariffs. We just have them in a different way. And now they've been confirmed by the Supreme Court of the United States. So there's no longer that question out there about tariffs. And we'll be taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. And countries that have treated us badly will have to pay a price for treating us badly. And countries that have been good to us will be treated very well. We just left the top person in a place called Vietnam, just left my office. Great gentleman, strong and smart. He said, you know, I think this means you're allowed to charge us more tariffs than before. And Canada said to Jameson, I might want to say it, Jameson, but Canada said, I hope you win this decision, because if you don't win, you'll actually be allowed to charge us, with a little additional work, higher tariffs. Jameson, you want to comment on that?
Yes, sir. So to the President's point, we have a lot of tools out there. We have Section 122, which will be implemented today. It will be signed today and implemented very shortly. We have Section 301 investigations, which are incredibly legally durable, where we can investigate and address unfair trading practices that have led to our huge trade deficit. And so you can look forward in the coming days and weeks to seeing all of that come out, and we're going to keep continuity in the program. We're going to keep addressing this so that the deficit can keep going down. That's the trend it has, and we can make America great again.
No.
Several of Republicans in Congress have supported this decision by the Supreme Court, and Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, has called you a wannabe king. Why wouldn't
him a low IQ?
But why wouldn't
he doesn't even know And I watched him the other day interview. The guy doesn't even know what a tariff is.
But there's been bipartisan criticism
No, not bipartisan.
of the tariffs.
Excuse me.
There's several
A few
Republicans
people.
have said that.
Yeah,
But
a
why
few people.
wouldn't you just work with Congress to come up with a plan?
I don't have
to push tariffs
I have the
through?
right to do tariffs, and I've always had the right to do tariffs, and it's all been approved by Congress, so there's no reason to do it. All we're doing is we're going through a little bit more complicated process, not complicated very much, but a little more complicated than what we had. We'll be able to take in tariffs, more tariffs, and the Congress people and the Congress.
Down the Canadian tariffs last week.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
been votes
you
in the
know why?
Senate against it.
Yeah, because we lost 2 Republicans or 3 Republicans because they're not good Republicans. What you don't say, you don't say that we got 215 votes.
You need 218 for something to pass.
Yeah, sure we do. We might have lost 3 votes, and we got. And what was the score on the Republican side? 215 to 3, right? But you don't say that. We have great unity. There's great unity in the Republican Party, and I hope everyone's going to vote Republican, because otherwise you won't have a country left, because these people have been destroying. They are destroying our country. Please.
Mr. President, the 122 tariffs, that 10%,
Yeah.
is that going to be for 150 days, or do you want to charge that indefinitely?
We have a right to do pretty much what we want to do, but we're going to charge it starting effectively. I think it's 3 days from now. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you speak to a lot of factory workers, a lot of manufacturing workers. What does the Supreme Court ruling say? What's that message to those factory workers?
Well, I think the factory workers are happy because we're now telling them that they're going to look. The man I met with yesterday, who owned a factory, was out of business. He was out of business, and now he's employing 5 times. In fact, I walked in. He's got a brand new crane. I said, "How old is that crane?" We got it in December. He's allowed to write it off in 1 minute. The Great Big Beautiful Act gave no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. He said this great big beautiful bill, frankly, has been the best thing that's ever happened for the workers much more so than for rich people. The only thing it does for rich people, it allows them to hire a lot more people. But when I saw him, and then he said, it's all up and down the line. This is a place in Georgia, all up and down, other factories doing different, not only steel products, different. He said, every one of us was out of business. We could barely make it. Some of them were down to less than an hour a week. Think of it, 1 hour a week to make just a few little trinkets or whatever they make. Now they're going round the clock. I had it a month ago. I went to Michigan, went to Ford, and I met with Bill Ford, the head of Ford, and we were in one of the biggest plants, an original plant from the early 1900s, where, by the way, I might add this, it's not really relevant, but it's all relevant. Murders are down the lowest since 1900, around the time that he had this plant. That's 125 years. We have the lowest murder rate. Okay. And our crime is way down in the country. The factories that we're talking about, the people that we're talking about, they are so thrilled with Trump. So whether we charge IEEPA tariffs or whether we charge tariffs under a different section, that's what we're going to be doing. There's no way we can lever. This is what happened to our country. This is why we owe $38 trillion, which we'll get rid of in pretty good course. We have a very incompetent Fed chairman who likes high interest rates. For political reasons, he likes them. But we're going to have somebody very good. Interest rates should come down very substantially. I think we should pay the lowest interest rates on the planet. There should be no country, and we don't do that. We're number 38. This is just bad policy for a long period of time. But what's happened is we've made America strong again. We've made America great again. We should pay. As an example, the country of Switzerland, we were getting almost no tariffs from them. We had a $40 billion deficit. And the prime minister called me up. She said, but we are a small country, because I said we're going to raise it to 39% from nothing. That would have rendered them not very successful, as opposed to right now they're considered elite. But if we put a tariff, they would, and I realized then, she said, but sir, we are a small country. I said, you're a small country with a big deficit. For us, you're making a lot of money off the United States. If we do that, a lot of these elite countries, they're elite because we let them make so much money. And I want them to do well, but I don't want them to do well on the backs of the American taxpayer. So I appreciate your question. I think it's a reasonable answer.
President Trump, you said that you were disappointed with that, but were you surprised with this decision? What you felt when you?
I was surprised because I thought that what we did was, number one, according to, I mean, I read the paragraphs. I read very well. Great comprehension. I read everything there is to read, and I said, we can't lose this case. But we can when judges are political, when they want to be politically correct, when they're catering to a group of people in D.C. Maybe, I don't know what it is, because when you read it, there's no other interpretation. There is no other interpretation. But it's okay, because what has come out, and I'll say it for the third time and maybe the last time in a while, is that we've taken the uncertainty of tariffs out, because we had uncertainty. We got sued by sleazebags, I know them well, that are very outside country, China-centric, but outside country-centric. And they're going to end up not doing as well as they did before. America was becoming really, really, we're strong again. Hey, we have the strongest military. I rebuilt the military in the first term. We have the most powerful military. We make the best equipment. And even them, you know, we could do much better. We have people that get paid a lot of money to manufacture Patriot missiles and javelins and all the different things. But when you want them, they're too slow. And we put them on notice, and they're going to make, our country is building a lot of things right now, and our country is doing really well. And we're going to keep it that way. The bottom line is that the word certainty is now in the equation. Every single thing I said today is guaranteed certainty. It's been tested, as Jameson said 1,000 times. Literally, I said hundreds of times. He said, sir, actually thousands of times, and won in all of the courts. And we're just going back to that. And the problem is that we had other presidents that weren't into trade. Maybe they weren't business-oriented. Maybe they weren't smart. We had some dummies, too, you know. I respectfully say we had some real dummies. So we are going to keep it going just as before, probably more so. But you're no longer going to be asked, every time I got up, you'd ask, well, what happens if you can't charge tariffs? Now we can. And by the way, in their decision, they specifically said, we can do these. We have alternatives. Yeah.
David, on the trade deals that were negotiated using IEEPA tariffs,
yeah,
do those stand now, or are they have to be
redone?
Well,
some of them stand. Many of them stand. Some of them won't, and they'll be replaced with the other tariffs.
Mr. President, on the Supreme Court justices who ruled against this the policy, striking it down, are they still invited to your State of the Union next week? And will you speak with them?
They are invited, barely. Barely. 3 are happily invited. No, they're barely invited. Honestly, I couldn't care less if they come. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the trade deal, which is the framework which is to be signed with India sometime soon, will that stand now?
Yeah,
and on the decision,
changes.
Nothing changes?
No, nothing changes. They'll be paying tariffs, and we will not be paying tariffs. Our deal with India is they pay tariffs. This is a reversal from what it used to be, as you know. India, and I think Prime Minister Modi is a great gentleman, a great man, actually, but he was much smarter than the people that he was against in terms of the United States. He was ripping us off in India. So we made a deal with India, and it's a fair deal now, and we are not paying tariffs to them, and they are paying tariffs. We did a little flip.
Are up as of now for this.
Mr. President. No, the India deal is on here.
Mr. President.
So much, Mr. President.
All the deals are on. We're just going to do it a different way.
Mr. President. Thank you so much, Mr. President. I think there is another war that you stopped and you should take the credit, which is in Syria. Secretary Rubio, after his meeting in Munich with the Syrian Foreign Minister and the Kurdish General Muslim Abdi, he said that President Trump was directly involved in efforts to stop the fighting between the Kurds and the Syrians. How will your administration make sure that this peace is sustained? And do you support the idea
Well, it's a very different topic, and so I don't want to spend a lot of time. But all I can say is that the president of Syria, who I essentially put there, is doing a phenomenal job. He's a rough guy. He's not a choir boy. A choir boy couldn't do it. But Syria is coming together, really coming together well. And thus far, he's been very good to the Kurds. Yeah.
Thank you. What's your message, Mr. President, what's your message to the Iranian people after 2 rounds of talks with them? Do you have any message to the Iranian people?
The Iranian people in Iran or people here?
People in Iran.
They better negotiate a fair deal. They better negotiate. You know, the people of Iran are a lot different than the leaders of Iran. And it's very, very sad situation. But 32,000 people were killed over a relatively short period of time. They were going to hang 800, 2 weeks ago, hang, some by crane. They lift them up with a tall crane, and they play them around the square. They were going to hang 837 people. And I gave them the word, if you hang one person, even one person, that you're going to be hit right then and there. I wasn't waiting 2 weeks and negotiating. And they gave up the hanging. They didn't hang 837. Supposedly, they didn't hang anybody. But no, I feel very badly for the people of Iran. They've lived in hell. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President, you mentioned multiple times foreign influence over the Supreme Court. Do you have evidence of that? And if not, will you investigate that?
You're going to find out.
What alternatives are you going to put into place in your relationship with Europe, and also those tariffs that has been called illegal? How they're going to go impact the relationship with Russia? That you sanction some countries?
I want Europe to strengthen up. Europe has gone woke. Europe is not recognizable when you go into so many places. Not all countries. You look at Hungary. You look at Poland, Czech. Slovakia. There are some countries that have gone very much the opposite, some really, and some others. But Europe has to be strong, and they become soft and not recognizable. You go into some of the countries, I don't want to be specific, but I think everyone knows what I'm talking about, and they're not recognizable. They become, the environmentalists have taken over. They've got windmills destroying their fields and their beautiful meadows and their oceans, and they're paying a fortune. Now, Europe has to get smart. Europe's getting killed on two things, energy and immigration. And if they don't solve both of them fast, Europe is not the same place. Yeah, please.
Justices Gorsuch and Barrett, are you surprised in particular by their decision today? And do you regret nominating them?
I don't want to say whether or not I regret. I think their decision was terrible. Yeah. I think it's an embarrassment to their families. You want to know the truth? The two of them. Yeah.
Specifically on that $2,000 tariff check.
Mr. President,
I didn't call you. You didn't call me?
Yeah, Mr. President, to be clear, do you believe at the end of implementing these new tariff tools, the tariff rate and tariffs will ultimately be higher than they currently are?
Potentially higher. How much higher? It depends, whatever we want them to be. But we want them to be fair for other countries. And, you know, we have some countries that have treated us really badly for years, and it's going to be high for them. And we have other countries that have been very good, and it's going to be very reasonable for them. Yeah.
Specifically on the tariffs question, I mean on the $2,000.
I didn't call you.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. Do you have any plans to travel to India for the Quad Summit, and how do you think your relationship with India is right now?
I think my relationship with India is fantastic, and we're doing trade with India. India pulled out of Russia. You know, India was getting its oil from Russia, right? And they pull way back at my request because we want to settle that horrible war where 25,000 people are dying every month. And my relationship with Prime Minister Modi is, I would say, great. I also stopped a war between India and Pakistan, as you know. There were 10 planes we shot down. That war was going, and probably going nuclear. And just yesterday, the Prime Minister of Pakistan said President Trump saved 35 million lives by getting them to stop. That's and I did it largely with tariffs. I said, look, you're going to fight, that's fine, but you're not going to do business with the United States, and you're going to pay a 200% tariff, each country. And they called up and they said, we have made peace. Okay? I just want to thank you all. Look, great certainty has been brought back to the economy of the United States, and actually the economy of the world, because we generate so much in the world. We're the biggest in the world, and we're now the strongest by far. We were a country that was dead. 1.5 years ago. Now we have the hottest country in the world. We're going to keep it that way. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Did you say 32,000 were killed in Iran, sir?
It blasts out 21,000 RPMs of airflow. Watch this. The sheer force propels this woman across the pool. Look, use Bullseye to blow up a huge jump house. Now that's power. Even blows snow right off your vehicle in no time. Turbo clean your porch in a flash or tidy up your dirty garage floor in seconds. Get it today for just $99.99. But wait, act now and get a $20 discount. So it's only $79.99. Plus, you'll get the adjustable extension tube. Yours free. And it all comes with free shipping. Order now.
Call 1-800-209-2313 or go to bullseyeblower.com. That's 1-800-209-2313 or order online at bullseyeblower.com. Order now.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretane Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure natural energy with Puretane Black Ginseng. Order now at puretane.com.
President Trump responding to the Supreme Court on his tariffs. In a special press briefing, he calls the decision incorrect and a disgrace to the nation, and the president is announcing even higher tariffs. Listen.
The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country. I'd like to thank and congratulate Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh for their strength and wisdom and love of our country, which is right now very proud of those justices. When you read the dissenting opinions, there's no way that anyone can argue against them.
The president says this is an important case with national security implications. He says there are other methods, practices, statutes, and authorities he can use to reimpose the tariffs. For example, Trump claims the court's decision recognizes the president's authority to use the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, Section 232, the Trade Act of 1974, Sections 122, 201, 301, and the Tariff Act of 1930, Section 38 to impose tariffs. He says the court decision will actually make the president's ability to regulate trade and impose tariffs more powerful, with more tariff revenue coming in.
Effective immediately, all national security tariffs under Section 232 and existing Section 301 tariffs, they're existing, they're there, remain in place, fully in place, and in full force and effect. Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. And we're also initiating several Section 301 and other investigations to protect our country from unfair trading practices of other countries and companies.
Trump calls the justices who ruled against him unpatriotic and disloyal to the Constitution. He says he believes the court has been swayed by foreign interests and a political movement that doesn't resonate with the broader public. The president also says foreign countries with trade surpluses with the U.S. are ecstatic about the court decision, but won't be happy for long. And joining us to discuss further is John Gardner, an entrepreneur with 2 decades of experience in American manufacturing. He's author of the book, Manufacture Local, How to Make America the Manufacturing Superpower of the World. So good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. President Trump, moments ago, calling the ruling ridiculous, but also saying it confirms more powerful alternatives. Your reactions to what happened this morning?
I think President Trump's right and the Supreme Court is wrong. The Supreme Court, or the Congress, gave the president the powers to have declare emergencies, and there's no bigger emergency than a national deficit. We're $1 trillion deficit. Our dollar was going to build the rise of other nations, adversarial nations like communist China. The fentanyl crisis, he used tariffs as a tool, an emergency to stop hundreds of thousands of Americans from dying from fentanyl, to try to slow that down. It's kind of a joke that the Supreme Court, says that emergency powers have to go through Congress for tariffs, when they didn't really stand up against all the pandemic laws and the overreach of during the emergency powers used to lock people in their homes and vaccinations and on and on. So I think this is against the American people. This is against how the founding fathers designed our country to be ran. The very first legislative act by Congress in 1789 was for the necessary for the support of the government for the discharge of debts of the United States and the encouragement and protection of manufacturers, that duties be laid on goods and wares imported. That's how they wanted our country to be ran. And I've been 21 years in the manufacturing industry, running a small business in the manufacturing industry, and these tariffs has helped me. My sales grew 20% last year. I felt protected from foreigners who wanted to invade our market and undercut me from state-subsidized businesses like in communist China. And manufacturing is might. Manufacturing creates weapon systems. Right now, we are reliant on adversarial nations for our weapon systems. General John Adams in 2013 said, America's vulnerability today is frightening. This is 13 years ago. Excessive and unwise outsourcing of American manufacturing to other nations weakens America's military capabilities. I don't understand what more you need to fall under emergency powers and security. And Congress never to act. I mean, there's even a joke. It would take an act of Congress for something to happen. That's why they gave the emergency powers to the president, so he could act quickly in times like this and switch dynamics. So I think this is a travesty against the American people.
Okay, John, a few more reactions I would like to get from you today. President Trump earlier just said that he found it sort of ridiculous that, this IEEPA rule, right, gave him the ability to license, to embargo, he says, essentially to destroy trade, right, with another country, but he can't charge $10. Your reaction to that?
It goes to this false impression that Rand Paul was saying, and seems to be in the neoconservative Supreme Court mindset, that tariffs are a tax. Tariffs are not a tax. You can avoid it by buying American. Tariffs are a fee, a toll that you pay to enter our market and be allowed. It is a privilege to be allowed to sell something as a foreign national in our market. It is a privilege, if you live in America, to go overseas and explore cheaper labor and explore less environmentally sound production capacity, and then bring your product here. That's a privilege. And so the president's right. He has the authority to actually cancel all trade from a country, but not to have a tariff. It is absolutely absurd. And I'm so happy the Justices Thomas and Alito and Kavanaugh saw the wisdom in what the president was doing. I think this decision is politically rotten, and I think it is against the American citizen, because it basically prioritizes foreign businesses and Americans here who want to undercut American producers, and basically diminishes the American citizen and doesn't protect them. And the President Trump's going to work around it all. This is actually going to turn out to be a bigger win for him in the long run, I believe. There's a lot of tools he's got in the tariff toolbox.
Yeah, he said something just like that earlier. He said this has made the president's ability to impose tariffs more powerful. He said that just moments ago. So, John, another thing I want to bring your attention to. So I saw this today. The International Monetary Fund said China's state-led growth model, have hurt other economies. A number of Chinese firms have been able to sell at artificially low prices. How have tariffs protected U.S. companies from China's unfair trade practices?
Well, China massively subsidized their manufacturing because they know that manufacturing is military power. And that's how we won World War II. Civil manufacturing might turn to military use in times of need. Well, Communist China wants military might, and they've pumped trillions and trillions of dollars into their production capacity. I believe, through all kinds of subsidies, free electricity for manufacturing companies, I don't get free electricity here for my manufacturing company in America. I think it was like $800 billion of state subsidies in 2024 alone. I might be off on that number, but it is way high. And so what that does is then they'll be able to come here without a tariff and undercut American producer has to pay, all these taxes, all these bills. And so what the tariffs do is they even the playing field for American producers. And let me give you just one quick example of how quickly our industry has been shutting down until President Trump. From 2020 to 2024, 4 aluminum smelters and refineries shut down because they didn't have the volume of goods ordered here. That was 30 to 40% of America's aluminum refining capacity. Imagine losing 30% of our capacity in 4 years. A new aluminum smelter announced their opening in January of this year because of the tariffs. They felt protected. Business would come here because the fees they'd have to pay would be balanced. So the tariffs work. And, we're doing it in a way that follows America first capitalism and not communist subsidies. And I think that is a beautiful thing. And I think the Supreme Court has harmed that. But I believe President Trump and his team, Dr. Navarro, everybody at the Office of Trade and Manufacturing have a lot of workarounds.
Okay, on that note, I have just one final question relating to what you just said. We talked about how President Trump has stronger alternatives. Do you expect, what is your feeling here on whether this is going to have a significant impact on the economy? What's your feeling?
I think that Goldman Sachs just predicted that this won't have much of an effect and the tariffs are going to stay in place. There's so many tariff tools that he has to use. I think the tariffs are here to stay and they're actually going to increase. I think that people are too scared to leave now, especially after the pandemic, especially with the more saber rattling from communist China against Taiwan and the global instability. The globalist vision doesn't, of free trade doesn't stand up in the face of war. I mean, you just look at like little minor things in the Red Sea disrupts shipping channels and stuff. So I think that the tsunami of reshoring has started, and I do not think it'll stop by this decision.
Well, all right, John, really enjoyed speaking with you today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
British police continue to search for the residence of former Prince Andrew. He was released after being arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office amid allegations he sent confidential government documents to Jeffrey Epstein. More news after this break. Don't go away.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. I would have been the last person on the list to say this woman has a problem with her heart. So no, there was nothing about my life that said you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, "I want to see you." No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, "Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic." A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. That's why I'm asking you to join me and become a monthly donor to the American Heart Association. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. If this could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, but your support can save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card and we'll send you this special t-shirt you can wear to show you're part of a community of monthly donors working to help save more lives like mine. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Every is a road laid out for me.
Boxes everywhere. And this is gonna be Addie's room.
I am blind,
you're really gonna like it.
I hope so. Yeah. I know this road is there for me. There is a long way.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Waist down by the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
I got this.
I know it's there for me.
Okay.
If I'm really free, take me down to the river and wash me.
A setback to President Trump's economic policy. The Supreme Court ruling against most of Trump's tariffs moments ago. Here's more on that.
The president has been using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to implement tariffs. That law allows presidents to regulate imports during times of emergency. Trump has argued that the influx of illegal drugs from China, Canada, and Mexico, and the huge trade deficits America has with other nations are both emergencies. The justices, though, ruling 6-3 that the law doesn't authorize the president to impose tariffs. Justices ruling against the tariffs include John Roberts, Neil Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett. The ruling affects the president's country-by-country reciprocal tariffs, the 25% tariffs on China, Canada, and Mexico over illegal drugs. Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum, which he imposed using different laws, they're not affected. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said that the administration could invoke other authorities to implement tariffs, although he said they are not as efficient, not as powerful. In the major Supreme Court ruling, tariff ruling, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that the government's interpretation of the law would give the president unbounded authority to impose and change tariffs. He said that would represent a major expansion of presidential power over tariff policy. Roberts adding that in the 50 years since the law was enacted, no president has used it to impose tariffs of that scale. He said the lack of precedent suggests the tariffs go beyond the president's authority. But in his dissent, Justice Clarence Thomas argued that neither the statute nor the Constitution justifies ruling against the president. He wrote that the court has long recognized Congress can give the president broad discretion over trade and commerce with other nations. In the majority opinion, the 6 justices said that the Trump administration may now be required to refund billions of dollars to importers who've paid the International Emergency Economic Powers Act tariffs, even though some importers may have already passed on costs to consumers or others. The Supreme Court also acknowledged that the refund process is likely to be a mess. Now, White House officials have said they could deploy other measures to implement President Trump's tariff agenda. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett told CNBC's Squawk on the Street in January that there are other legal authorities to reach the same place instead of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has referenced a Plan B to recreate the exact tariff structure. Now, U.S. stocks initially popped following the High Court's ruling. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rising more than 200 points. But the benchmark averages later pared their gains. Members of Congress, mostly Democrats, have reacted to the Supreme Court ruling. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer reacted to the tariffs ruling. In a post on X, he called it, quote, a victory for the wallets of every American consumer. The Main Street Alliance, a group that represents 30,000 small business owners, has called for refunds to businesses affected by the tariffs. Now, globally, the European Union says it's carefully analyzing the ruling, with the European Commission's trade spokesman saying the EU is in close contact with the administration for clarity on next steps. The British government says it will contact the Trump administration to assess the impact of the ruling as well. Government spokesperson said the UK will continue to support British businesses as details emerge. They said the UK expects its privileged trading position with the US to continue. The spokesperson added that Prime Minister Keir Starmer's government will work with the US to understand how the ruling affects tariffs for the UK and other nations. Also, NBC News reporting that President Trump was informed of the Supreme Court ruling while meeting with a bipartisan group of governors. The report says the president called the decision a, quote, a disgrace, with the president allegedly telling the group that he does have a backup plan. And prominent law professor Jonathan Turley posted his reaction on the highest court's decision. He says the ruling is not welcome, but is anticipated. He says the 6-3 decision was already clear when the court heard the argument, and he believes the administration was at a disadvantage from the start, as the court weighs a statute that lacked clear authority for tariffs. Turley also says that what's unclear now is how the administration will proceed in foreign relations and trade negotiations. It is worth noting the administration has repeatedly said they do have other authority should the court strike down those specific tariffs. And Representative French Hill, chairman of the House Committee on Financial Services, responded to the Supreme Court ruling, writing on social media platform X. He says, quote, I share in President Trump's goal of securing fair and reciprocal trade agreements and holding bad actors accountable for their unfair trade policies. He added that while tariffs can be a useful tool when applied in a targeted way, today's Supreme Court decision underscores the need for Congress to play a role in trade policy. My focus remains on advancing a trade strategy that supports Arkansas jobs, businesses, and consumers and strengthens U.S. competitiveness. That's Mr. Hill.
President Trump responding to the Supreme Court on his tariffs in a press briefing. He calls the decision incorrect and a disgrace to the nation, and the president announcing even higher tariffs.
The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country. I'd like to thank and congratulate Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh for their strength and wisdom and love of our country, which is right now very proud of those justices. When you read the dissenting opinions, there's no way that anyone can argue against them.
The president says this is an important case to him with national security implications. He says there are other methods, practices, statutes, and authorities he can use to reimpose the tariffs. For example, Trump claims the court decision recognizes the president's authority to use the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, Section 232, and the Trade Act of 1974, Sections 122, 201, 301, and the Tariff Act of 1930, Section 338, to impose tariffs. He says the court decision will actually make the president's ability to regulate trade and impose tariffs more powerful, with more tariff revenues coming in.
Effective immediately, all national security tariffs under Section 232 and existing Section 301 tariffs, they're existing, they're there, remain in place, fully in place, and in full force and effect. Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. And we're also initiating several Section 301 and other investigations to protect our country from unfair trading practices of other countries and companies.
Trump calls the justices who ruled against him unpatriotic and disloyal to the Constitution. He says he believes the court has been swayed by foreign interests and a political movement that doesn't resonate with the broader public. The president also says foreign countries with trade surpluses with the U.S. are ecstatic about the court decision, but won't be happy for long. Turning to the economy, the U.S. economy grew less than expected at the end of last year. The slowdown was partially driven by a 6-week federal government shutdown. Weaker consumer spending also weighed on the economy. According to the Bureau of Labor or the Bureau of Economic Analysis, inflation-adjusted gross domestic product rose at a 1.4% annual rate in the fourth quarter. That follows a 4.4% increase in the previous quarter. For the full year, the economy expanded 2.2%. Consumer spending rose 2.4% in the fourth quarter. That is slower than the 3.5% gain in the third quarter. Before the data was released, President Trump said on social media that the shutdown would cost at least 2 percentage points in GDP. Despite the slowdown, the figures cap a solid year for the economy. Trump economic advisor Kevin Hassett spoke on Fox News this morning on the economy. Take a listen.
The Democrat shutdown took about 2% off the number, according to the Council of Economic Advisors. So if you're really thinking about like what trajectory is the economy on right now, it's way north of 3. And if you look at the average of the 3 quarters since President Trump took office, abstracting from the first quarter when it was, mostly Joe Biden's quarter, then we're looking at growth of 3.2% on average over the year. In fact, even in the somewhat disappointing GDP report, if you go down and look into the details, you can see that there's a capital spending boom that's 3 quarters underway that's related to the policies of both, having expensing and having the tariffs encourage people to onshore.
The arrest of King Charles's brother Andrew dominating British newspaper headlines today. Police continue to search Andrew's former residence. The search comes the day after he was held in custody for nearly 11 hours. After questioning, Andrew returned to his new home on the Sandringham estate. The estate is the private retreat of King Charles in eastern England. Police have concluded their search at the estate but are still searching Royal Lodge, his 30-room former home in the grounds of Windsor Castle, just west of the capital, London. Here's more on the arrest and release of former Prince Andrew, Mountbatten Windsor.
King Charles's younger brother, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, was released from police custody on Thursday evening after being arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office over allegations he sent confidential government documents to Jeffrey Epstein. He was captured in this Reuters photograph, seated inside a car, appearing visibly shaken. Mountbatten Windsor had been questioned all day by detectives from Thames Valley Police. They later said an arrested man had been released under investigation. The police force said it was looking into allegations that Mountbatten Windsor had passed documents to the late convicted sex offender while working as a trade envoy. The arrest of the senior royal, 8th in line to the throne, is unprecedented in modern times. King Charles, who appeared at a fashion show in London just hours after his brother's arrest, said in a statement that, quote, "The law must take its course." Mountbatten Windsor, the second son of the late Queen Elizabeth, has always denied any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein and said he regrets their friendship. His office did not respond to a request for comment, and he has not spoken publicly since the U.S. government released more than 3 million pages of documents relating to Epstein, who was convicted of soliciting prostitution from a minor in 2008. Those files suggested that in 2010, Mountbatten Windsor forwarded Epstein reports about Vietnam, Singapore, and other places the former prince had visited on official trips. Sky Roberts, the brother of Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's most prominent accusers, welcomed Mountbatten Windsor's arrest.
I think we're very hopeful that this is the start of the domino effect. This is where the house of cards starts falling. And, kudos to the UK for taking the first step, for saying, you know what, we are going to arrest somebody who is held to one of the highest esteems out there.
The arrest means that police have reasonable suspicion that a crime has been committed and that the royal is suspected of involvement in an offense, but it does not imply guilt.
And a settlement in an Epstein case. Jeffrey Epstein's estate has agreed to pay as much as $35 million to resolve a class action lawsuit. The suit accuses 2 of his advisors of aiding and abetting his sex trafficking of young women and teenage girls. The deal would bring an end to a 2024 lawsuit filed against Epstein's former personal lawyer, Darren Indyke, and former accountant Richard Kahn, co-executors of Epstein's estate. It still needs to be approved by a judge. Epstein's estate previously set up a restitution fund that paid out over $120 million to victims. The state also paid out nearly $50 million in additional settlements to victims. Neither Indyke or Kahn made any admission or concession of misconduct as part of the settlement. UFOs in the spotlight. President Trump yesterday ordered government agencies to release information about extraterrestrial life and related phenomena. The move followed former President Barack Obama's comments on alien life in a podcast interview earlier this week.
Barack Obama said that aliens are real. Have you seen any evidence of non-human visitors to Earth?
Well, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that.
So aliens are real?
Well, I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. He made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information. No, I don't have an opinion on it. I never talk about it. A lot of people do. A lot of people believe it. Do you believe it, Peter?
Facility, unless there's this enormous conspiracy.
Obama was asked in an interview whether aliens were real, to which he replied, "They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in Area 51. Obama later said the odds are good there's life out there, but the chances we've been visited by aliens is low. In 2023, the White House acknowledged that there had been unexplained aerial phenomena reported by pilots and the Navy and Air Force. The Department of Homeland Security is tightening its enforcement of an existing case review law. The law requires refugees to report to DHS in person after they've been in the country for 1 year. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has more.
The Department of Homeland Security is announcing a new policy on how it implements existing immigration law. The policy requires refugees to appear in person for a review of their residency status after they've been in the U.S. for a year. And if they fail to do so, they risk being detained. DHS says this is a change from previous policies saying, quote, the changes are designed to better enforce the statutory 1-year requirement that aliens admitted as refugees be returned to DHS custody for inspection and examination for admission. Some recent media reports of this update have suggested that it provides the DHS with increased power to detain refugees. DHS tells NTD that the reports are, quote, sensationalizing long-established immigration law, saying USCIS is implementing the law as written by Congress. The statute expressly says that they shall return or be returned to custody. This is not novel or discretionary. It is a clear requirement in law. The alternative would be to allow fugitive aliens to run rampant through our country with zero oversight. In other news, a man pleaded guilty to aggravated assault after allegedly assaulting an ICE officer in Portland, Oregon. Court documents say Robert Jacob Hoops threw a large rock, striking the agent, causing significant damage to the officer's eye last June. The FBI says that on the same day, Hoops was seen with 2 other people using a stop sign as a makeshift battering ram, causing major damage to the main door of the Portland, Oregon ICE facility. The Trump administration has warned about assaulting federal agents.
Anyone who threatens or assaults our federal officers will be arrested and charged federally.
Hoops faces up to 20 years in prison if convicted. And the DHS says that ICE deportations have led to a 36% drop in illegal immigrants receiving welfare benefits, as well as a 42% drop in illegal immigrants applying to welfare programs, and that 11% have dropped out of them. The DHS says that the data is from a KFF survey done in 2025. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
A Virginia judge has temporarily blocked a planned April referendum to redraw the state's congressional maps. Tazewell County Circuit Court Judge Jack Hurley issued an emergency restraining order yesterday. The judge sided with the National Republican Congressional Committee and other plaintiffs who argued the measure was unconstitutional. The order prevents local officials from moving forward with the referendum and remains in effect until March 18th. Early voting had been scheduled to begin March 6th. Virginia Democratic Attorney General Jay Jones has vowed to appeal the decision. The NRCC called the ruling a massive win for Virginians. Democratic leaders say they are confident the order will be overturned as the broader redistricting fight continues. 2 Russian nuclear-capable bombers having to be escorted away after nearing Alaska. We have more news after this break. Don't go away.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality. A timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural, organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure natural power of Puretang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Puretang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
My 15-year-old son, Ethan, and I had a fun and relaxing morning. We returned home, and Ethan walked to his best friend's house an hour later. I heard the ambulance scream by the street, carrying my beautiful boy. Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. He had zero chance of survival. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox.
How do you feel?
That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
David, would you give any advice?
First thing you do is not keep your ammunition with your weapons, and that your weapons need to be locked at all times.
Mathis Home is the place to find the best values and the most options for your next home furnishings project. Take a look at this modular sectional from Ashley. We stock it in a variety of cover options. And it has built-in Bluetooth speakers and storage. The best part, it's configurable to fit your space. Looks like this costs double from other retailers. But at Mathis Home, you get all this for just $19.99. Come see all the ways we can save you money at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Two Russian nuclear-capable bombers having to be escorted away after nearing Alaska. This just shortly after the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine held trilateral peace talks in Geneva. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pasdar has the story.
Two Russian bombers entering the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone. Russia's defense ministry says the nuclear-capable strategic bombers completed a routine patrol flight over the international waters in the Bering Sea. The North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD for short, commented, saying it launched fighter jets to intercept, positively identify and escort the aircraft until they departed the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone. The incident comes shortly after the US, Russia and Ukraine held trilateral peace talks in Geneva. On Friday, Russian President Vladimir Putin asked Moscow's delegation to report on the outcome of the talks.
They have already reported to me, but I would like all permanent members of the Security Council to be informed firsthand too.
The Kremlin did not provide the video of the report itself, but the White House recently said the three parties did make meaningful progress toward peace. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says a European presence at peace talks in Switzerland is important.
It is important that the Europeans were present in Switzerland. This is exactly how we intend to work going forward, to ensure that Europe's positions are taken into account.
Officials from various European nations were present in Geneva and held talks with the Ukrainians on the sidelines of the two-day trilateral meeting. The White House suggests another set of talks will be held soon. Arian Pasdar, NTD News.
Poland is officially exiting the Ottawa Convention. The treaty bans the use of anti-personnel landmines. Prime Minister Donald Tusk saying Poland could mine its eastern borders within 48 hours if needed. Poland borders Ukraine and Belarus. Leaders fear Russia could target NATO territory. Last year, Poland joined Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Ukraine in announcing plans to leave the treaty. They argue landmines are needed to deter Russia, which never signed the convention. The Ottawa Convention, signed in 1997, was created to reduce civilian suffering caused by anti-personnel mines. Other countries like the U.S. and China have never joined the treaty. Washington is engaged in negotiations with New Delhi over the purchase of Venezuelan oil, U.S. Ambassador Sergio Gore said Friday, as India seeks to reduce its dependence on Russian energy imports.
I don't want to get into that. Some of that aspect has not been announced yet, but there are active negotiations. The Department of Energy is speaking to the Ministry of Energy here, and so we're hoping to have some news on that very soon. But you're ahead of the curve.
Gore was speaking on the sidelines of an event in New Delhi. India joined the U.S.-led initiative aimed at building a silicon supply chain for high-tech products. India recently agreed to cut Russian oil imports, a key condition for the U.S. lowering tariffs on Indian goods. The U.S. had pitched the sale of Venezuelan oil to India to help replace Russian oil imports. Meanwhile, India and the U.S. are working to finalize the trade deal. The Indian foreign minister says a delegation led by the chief negotiator will visit Washington next week. And Japan's prime minister is sounding the alarm on China. In her first post-election speech to parliament, Sanae Takaichi warned of what she called growing Chinese coercion. She says Japan faces its toughest security environment since World War II, citing Beijing's expanding military activities in the East China Sea and South China Sea. She also cited Beijing's closer ties with Russia and warned about North Korea's nuclear missile program. Takaichi pledged to overhaul the country's defense strategy. She also wants to ease restrictions on military exports. Right now, Japan exports non-lethal equipment like body armor, but a policy panel from her party is proposing broader rules that would allow Japanese firms to sell a wide range of defense equipment overseas. Takaichi also promised to strengthen critical supply chains. Her tough stance follows months of tension with Beijing. Last year, she said Japan could use military force if an attack on Taiwan also threatened Japanese territory. After this break, we'll have more discussion of the Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs. Don't go away. Stay with us.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
My name's Stacy, I'm 57, and I was adopted in 2020.
We were adopted in 2019.
And we were adopted in 2021.
We had a house, and it sounds crazy, but it wasn't a home. The one thing that Jake and Emma brought is it became a home.
When I met Dakota, he had just turned 14.
You weren't there for the first this and the first that. I missed the first words, but we got a lot of other firsts.
Watching her say, oh my God, I cannot believe I got my license. And she's like, I passed. And I'm like, girl.
See them grow. It is.
They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
You and you. Kids in the middle. What I thought was a complete life was nowhere near complete. but it is now.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.